Welcome. My name is Shawn Jones, and I'm the CEO of the iNetrapreneur Network. And today I have with me Tami Jaffe, owner of Tami Jaffe Coaching. She works with individuals who are looking to transition from the corporate world, or those who have never started a business but are looking at being self-employed, becoming that entrepreneur. She takes the ease and shows them the ways how they can become successful entrepreneurs without all the fears and the worries. Tami, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Shawn. It's great to be here with you.
So, Tami, being an entrepreneur, especially first-time entrepreneur, if you've worked in the corporate world, or maybe you're right out of school and you're not sure if the corporate world is for you and you want to try entrepreneurship first, it can be sometimes scary. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It can be overwhelming because there's so many options, so many things you need to do that people get stuck, right? They're like, okay, where do I go? What do I do? Or they try different things and they're not necessarily the right things for when you're starting.
So when you typically work with clients, there's I understand that there's so many different fears, questions, where do I begin? What do you find are typically the hangups that future entrepreneurs have when they're looking at starting down this road?
Yeah, I think especially people who have been working as an employee for a while and they've been in the job, they know what they're doing. They're, the subject matter expert or whatever they're at. They're like, oh, I got to start over, and I think that's something that people need to understand is you're not completely starting over. You're taking everything you've learned, everything you've done, and bringing that into your business. You're starting over in certain aspects, but that's one of the things that I see is they feel like they've got to start over. They feel like they're never going to be able to have sales conversations and sell people into things because that's not their background and where they came from. So they have this fear of sales and what that means and what that looks like. And so those are probably a couple of the big things that I see when people are thinking about starting a business, but they really hold them back from actually getting started.
When you work with your clients and they're I call it the interview process themselves, they know that they need some assistance. What can they expect from Tami Jaffe Coaching?
Well, what I focus with my people is one, we got to start with the foundation. So I have programs that take you through the foundations of starting a business. What do you need to know? How do you get it set up? What's your, getting your message down? How do you get out there? And what are the right things that you should be doing at the right time in your business? So I am all about making sure you're doing the right things at the right time because I've seen so many people, I call them the shiny objects, right? You go chase all of these shiny objects and you're like, okay, I'm going to go try this and I'm going to go try that. And it doesn't work. And you're wondering why. And a lot of times it's just because it wasn't the right time in your business to introduce that. There's a time and a place for everything, but you don't need to be running ads when you don't even have a message down yet. You don't need to be doing certain things in your business when you haven't gotten your foundations down. So we start with the foundations, we get those nailed down. I teach you, how do you get out in front of people? How do you start getting your first clients? How do you get to that consistent income in the best way so that you know exactly when to bring the next thing into your business and you're not wasting a lot of time and money?
You mentioned the shiny object and all the tools that are available out there. How do you assess, or what is your process when you work with the client to say, yes, this is what you need to incorporate in your business. This is the right time, or this would be the scalability. How do you determine this?
Yeah, a lot of it's based on one, what's the income level of your business? When you get to a consistent income level, then you can introduce a few more things, right? And part of it's focusing on one thing at one time. Get really good at one thing, get that down, get that working for you, get that bringing in leads before you jump into something else. And so we take a look at each business individually. Where are you starting from? Because not everybody's starting from point zero. I have plenty of clients who come to me and they're like, oh, I've just spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on all these other programs and I'm still not making consistent income. What am I doing wrong? And so we take a look at where are you at? What are you doing? What is working? What's not working? And go back to the focus. Like, what's going to help you bring in that income based on what your business is, based on what you're good at, based on what your message is. And we start there and figure out the best strategy.
You also mentioned a foundation, and regardless of the industry, all businesses have a core foundation that they need to consider, whether it's a CRM, a customer management system, or it's the branding and the colors. There's some core foundation elements. What are the most important elements to look at when you are considering starting a company?
Yeah, I think one of the things you have to start with is what is the problem you solve for people, right? What is that problem you solve for people so that you can get your message down? Because you can't sell anything unless you have a clear message and a clear understanding of what it is that you are serving people with. Like, how are you going to help them go from point A to point B? And too many people start out and they've got these fuzzy messages and they don't make a lot of sense and they don't land with people. And so I believe that's one of the core foundations. And there's other pieces of the foundation too, right? You have to be able to have a sales conversation with people and feel confident in what you're selling and getting those foundational pieces in place. Technology is definitely a foundation, but I think there's levels of what you need to introduce. You don't need a 20-page website when you're first starting out, right? So what's the foundational piece of the website that you do need? And what does that look like? And then how do you build it after that? And how do you continue to grow it? Because too many times people will spend all this time and money on the behind the scene things and not get themselves out there and making money. And then they find themselves like feeling like they've got to go back and get a job because now they've spent all this money, but they're not making money. So we focus on how do you start making money first and then start implementing some of the other pieces that aren't there are, some of them are the shiny objects that you do eventually, but they're not bringing you in that income initially when you're starting your business.
Okay. When somebody starts their business, usually the first year, even maybe the first 2 years, I always say is the roughest. Some of it is trial ballooning. What sounds great, you try it, and then it turns out that maybe your clients, your demographics, that's not quite what was resonating with them. I don't know about your experience, but mine, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs that when they create content or they're creating images or they're talking to what they think is their audience, they're actually talking to themselves, and there can be kind of those mixed signals. It's like what looks good to me may not look good to who I actually want to talk to. How do you help those entrepreneurs overcome when they realize that they're speaking to themselves but not to their audience?
Yeah. So you've got to know what your audience is saying. You've got to know what their what their challenges are. So the only way to do that is really to speak to them. You can do client interviews with people to say, what are your challenges? What are you going through? What if you could change one thing, what would it be? Like, find out what their language is so that you can speak directly to them. Because I think you're right. I mean, most businesses don't make an income in the first 3 years. I mean, that's just standard statistics. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. And when we're not able to target the right people at the right time in the right way, then you're never going to get there and you find yourself spinning. So going back and looking at who are my people, making sure you know who they are, making sure that you are clear on that message, because I think, and this happens a lot, I call them the woo-woo people. Now, I do energy work, so I am not downplaying the woo-woo people, but, I'm also a strategist, and I don't, you hear some people come out and they're like, oh, I'm going to transform your life. And, and they use this language that you're just like, well, what does that exactly mean? And you can't understand how that's really going to work for you. Yes, you may want a transformation, but you're like, I want this specific transformation. And what are you going to do to help me get there? So being very specific in your language, and people who have been, coaching and doing their like niche for so long start to talk in their own language. And the people you're targeting are probably not there yet. They don't even understand your language. So you've got to go back to kind of the basics of understanding What are they saying? What are their challenges? How do you talk directly to them so that they get it, they understand you and what you're providing for them?
Tami, when you work with your clients, what is the frequency? What does that look like? Do you just give them workbooks and, the weekly emails? Do you have weekly calls? Do you go into their businesses and really analyze and audit everything they're doing? And does that experience with Tami Jaffe coaching, does that expand beyond the first year of startup?
Yes, it absolutely expands beyond the first year. It's a great question. I have a few different programs that I work with people on. So I have a boot camp, which is going through those foundations. So for people who are just getting started and figuring out all those foundational pieces, I have a 3-month boot camp that we take them through, and it is intense. It's a weekly training, weekly Q&A calls, and gives you all of those solid foundations so that you can get your first clients. And then I have the Inspired Business School, which is a year-long program that helps you to get to that consistent income. We've got monthly trainings, monthly masterminds, monthly Q&A calls. They get a private coaching session with me. There's so much in the business school. It's like, it has kind of everything. It's a hybrid program that is a mix of individual and group coaching. And I also have private clients. So some people are like, I just don't want to do the group thing. And so I'll have clients where we'll dive in and do a VIP day where we're looking at, okay, what is happening for your business and where are you at? And let's put a strategy in place and let's come up with a 90-day, 90-day or 6-month plan, depending on what we're working on, to figure out what that's going to look like for you. So those are a few of my programs. I also do retreats and workshops and things as well. So it just depends on what the need is, where the person is. And with the business school, that is something that, people will do year after year because it's continual growth.
Tami, if somebody wants to schedule a consultation with you or an appointment just to discover if, they're headed in the right direction and needing your services, how can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, TamiJaffe.com. Or if you want to schedule a consult, go to chatwithtami.com.
Wonderful. Tami, I am thankful that you are here today. It is wonderful how you are helping entrepreneurs really achieve their success, and you're taking all the myths and you're really doing what I call that hand holding for them, because it's so important. And you're really giving them a solid foundation and a jump start so they're not just wading the waters alone. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sean. It's been great being here with you.
For those of you who have just heard Tami Jaffe, she is the owner of Tami Jaffe Coaching. She will be one of the expert speakers at the upcoming Art of Connection Summit on Tuesday, September 21st. You can hear more from Tami on stage. She will also be hosting a series of personalized workshops throughout the event. It is your opportunity to get the information to talk to Tami directly. To attend this event on September 21st, visit the website at artofconnectionsummit.com.